along. He touched on some of the issues about and his concerns about them. Let's begin with the matter of national unity, which the president spoke about, saying that our country can only thrive when there is peace. And he said that it seems like the 2023 election was a high point of where a lot of persons discovered how seemingly divided we were because of perhaps the voting pattern and all of the conversations that went around the matter of the election at the time. And that matter is still trickling down. Some have said that perhaps the ghost of the past, when you talk about the civil war and all of the other attendant issues, are still very much with us, and that we have not been able to address those issues from the root to tackle this matter of unity.
Yeah, that was a good point made by Fatunke about the issue of national unity. It has always been an issue. And the president made reference to the founding fathers.
Yes.
You know, I'm always wary of using the expression founding fathers because I've written in a number of places that we do not really have founding fathers, because founding fathers will mean that they had at heart the idea of a national myth, a national legend, a national consciousness. Whether it is Obafemi Awolowo, whether it was Nnamdi Azikiwe, whether it was Tafawa Balewa, they came across as nationalists, but not Nigerian nationalists, but as it were, sectional nationalists. So if you want to say you have a founding father, it was not a founding father like we use in the expressions that we use in the United States, where you had people like Jefferson, Washington, Madison, and all of those who were thinking about a national consciousness. But these people were fighting each other based on this is my territory, that is your territory. So that kind of territorial crisis, territorial consciousness, have continued to haunt us as a nation. The last election brought about some of the frayed nerves of us as a country, the tendencies to bigotry, the tendencies to ethnicism, the tendency to a fractured sense of existence, the tendency to do what the existentialist writer and poet Jean-Paul Sartre called other people are the enemy is other people, or hell is other people. You know, you are okay, the other people are bad. So we saw that in the election. The election was bitter, the election was frayed, and the post-election seemed to even have been more bitter. And there's a sense that if you don't come my way, it can never be your way. It can never be your way. If you don't come my way, it can never be your way. We are not. So that sense is still there, and the only way we can do that is to make sure that the elite have a sense of buy-in into the concept of Nigeria. But because the political elites continue to see that if I play this ethnic card, I will win. It becomes more important to play that ethnic card. It's just like what Trump is doing in the United States now, unfortunately. When he says Kamala Harris is mentally impaired, he's saying, you white people, don't go to these colored people because, you know, they don't have brains. So that's the dog whistle. So that's the kind of thing we have. We still have it in this country. And we have to understand that for us to work together, we need a national consciousness. But we have not arrived, as you said, on that consensus that we need a consensus. We need to reach it. We have to agree that we need to agree before we can agree.
interesting, typical of Sam. But you see, one would say that, isn't that the reason why we had the National Confab at the time to addressing some of these issues? There were reports because of all of that. Why is this seeming so difficult for us to agree so we can agree, like Sam has said? So
that we can disagree to agree. As I'm going to disagree with him, he's going to agree with me, and then we still have to shake hands.
At the end of the day, let's agree. That's the summary.
On a more serious note, Sam, you hit the runners. Yeah, it's true, historically, that we had nationalists clubbered together. And I don't want to go back into what the British did or undo, but these were nationalists that had a fervor, and they had a dream of justice, of equity, of fair play. We cobbled a constitution together, and then we were different, and we were all contributing to the center one way or the other. And since the Civil War tore us apart, in the words of late Dim Ojukwu, when he was being interviewed on NTA after he got a pardon from Shagari, and they were asking him about his bitter, his feud with Nnamdi Azikiwe. He clearly looked at the reporter and says, I can only look up there in my front. I can't see the back. These nationalists, back in the day, in the mode of an Awolowo as an example, came with firsts. Okay? Why is it that we are not having that now? We are not having that now. Mr. President, and that's the point I want to really touch on, that we had an opportunity of a truth commission. A couple have happened before. And when that truth commission came, I think my friend and my dear brother Matthew Kuka is still very much alive. We didn't have a consensus like Sam rightly said to agree that we should all come. Some people of the other party, and by the way, we have two parties in Nigeria. It doesn't matter how you look at it. We have the military party and we have the civilian party, in my opinion. The military party just went to Mina, Hilltop, to go and do a bit of a coving. The rest are civilians, and then you have people joining in between. So when the military came, and they came with their thing, and they gave us the 1999 Constitution as amended, we knew it was a Constitution that is lied against itself. The truth that I'm expecting, a hope agenda of Mr. President, is to go deeper and say, look, yes, I am operating a constitution. I am thinking of widening it now to do a youth confab, which, like I said, I hope is going to be all-inclusive. Usually, he talked about elite consensus. Are we going to have a consensus before? I'm not playing a devil's advocate in the negative here, but before you can say Robinson before Jack, you now see some people who say, no, I don't want to be part of it, or whatever it is centric towards a section and what. We've not been able to do that. And I thought Mr. President needed to have confronted that straight.
How should he have confronted it? Okay,
now we have these problems. Now I'm going to get the youths together. I'm going to find a way that politicians are not going to be the ones that are going to populate all these youths. I'm going to get a particular youth. I came across one last Sunday at Chapel Baptist Church from Bethesda to School for the Blind. He was singing, and he made a point to the congregation, and I'm sure quite a number of churches will see that there is a blind person that's finished university and came with a GDP grade point of 4.7, excellent, but cannot afford the law school. Can we get people like that to begin to talk? I am very sure that will happen. That if we don't get in the bureaucracy. I also think that I know you are going to get to that, Veronica, if I know you very well, that the amount of time that was spent by Mr. President, in my view, was not very necessary. about talking about, I think it's also in the way towards unity, talking about, awards that are going to be given to the Senate President and all that. I didn't think that was necessary. I think those few minutes should have really found a way to say that can we begin to look at political solutions to some of the problems we have that is tearing our unity apart. I'm talking about example, and I'm saying it with a lot of pleading. The Nnamdi Kanu issue, the IPOB issue, for instance, and that's not alone. We have it all over. We have nationalists, like Sam says, also clamoring that they want to tear apart. Can we begin to say truth to ourselves, and Mr. President, leading the way?
That in his speech?
Well, leading the way, just one statement. You see, I'm a communicator. Just one statement will find a way to cure it all.
Right.
Mr. President said, for instance, that there are challenges. Some of those challenges predate him. Many of those challenges are what he met. And an attempt to boldly tackle them is not being altruistic. Can we therefore then say, can we look at them and then set agenda for character, capacity, and compassion?
Absolutely. Yeah. So let me quickly go back to Dr. Kabiru Sufi, who is back on now. I asked earlier if what your perception of the president's speech was, if it addressed some of the things that you were looking forward to that he should address.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me.
Right.
I think I will not say that it has addressed all the issues, but I think it's a major departure from the last two addresses we have seen, which Nigerians find a little bit disappointing. I think this speech seems to be one, more promising, and secondly, seems to touch on lots of issues and touch on Nigerians' concerns. It opened with the issue of high rising cost. And I think not only at the opening, even towards the end of the speech, the president still acknowledged that high rising cost. And I think this is one of the major concerns of Nigerians. So the president there is no grandstanding like we have in the last two national broadcasts. The president talked about challenges, and of course how in the last 16 months the government has been trying to surmount those challenges. And of course, like you have rightly talked about in the studio now, we have seen so many issues that have been raised. The youth conference, for example, I think that's a good one. But I hope it will not just be the 30 days national conference itself. Maybe it should start at the subnational levels. Let us be able to sieve serious participants. And I believe that will raise the promise of the country. And of course, it may be signified that the country is looking forward to its youth, which the president rightly said constitute more than 60% or 60% of the population. So I hope maybe the modalities may not really rely on the 30 days national conference, but the one at national level. I believe it can start at the subnational levels and then probably end at the national level. I think that's a good one. And like you have rightly said in the studio, we hope the politicians will not really infiltrate and will really allow it to be a truly youth initiative. No too much understanding in the speech. And of course, the president has talked about our challenges in the past and how those are shaping our future and how those challenges should not be allowed to go in vain. I think it has not really addressed all the issues, but I think it is a major departure from the past, and it had already raised so many issues, even the economic reforms and how those are challenging. talk about the current national disasters and how that has maybe stimulated.
Dr. Sufi, well, technology has shown its strength again. We'll definitely come back to you as soon as we can, reach you. Let me come to you now, Sam. So many concerns with regards to this matter of confab, the matter of ensuring that it is represented by the youth. Like he mentioned, perhaps we should look at beginning from a regional level or from the grassroots, talking about state level, and then we have a national conversation such that the voice of every youth is well represented and heard. And that was also some of the things our previous guests spoke about. They were concerned about corruption and that this confab will not go the way of other confabs that we have heard over the years, where the reports, we have not seen the implementation, so to speak, of the report. Now that this concerns the youth, that the youth indeed take charge and contribute to nation building, as the president has said.
Yeah. Before I said that, Fatunka was showing that he didn't address the issue of unity and stuff like that, even if briefly. I think he did when he said we have since returning from the brink of that darkest moment, I was talking of the Civil War. Yeah. We have learned to embrace our diversity and manage our differences better as we continue to work towards engendering a more perfect union. Despite the many challenges that buffeted our country, we remain a strong, united, and viable sovereign nation. Well, the issue of confab is also a way of also trying to get unity from the grassroots. It's going to be interesting how that is going to be prosecuted. It's going to be a very, very delicate architecture to really get the youths to agree, this Gen Z generation, to bring them together. I really doff my hat to anybody who is able to get them together. I like to see the conversations that they are going to begin. I like to see those who believe in it and those who will say they don't believe in it. And I like to see how they're going to construct it. And I look forward to those 30 days. They will be the most exciting 30 days in Nigerian history. I'm waiting to see them come to pass. The youth are not the easiest people to organize. The youths are more inclined to violence than to concord. They are more inclined to disagreement than to agreement. They are more used everywhere in the world. Okay. They are more inclined to challenge the status quo than to work with it. Okay. So for us to bring them together into a republic of consciousness is a very big task. It is a task, to quote Gohan, that must be done. He said to keep Nigeria one is a task. I don't know if you know that expression, that must be done. That was the refrain during the Civil War. They said, go on with one Nigeria. Again, go on with one Nigeria. So to keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done. That was the refrain of the federal government during the Civil War. So to bring these people together, you have to create a template, an architecture of deciding who represents where. Are we going to delineate them according to local governments, according to wards, according to states, according to regions? And what's going to be the parameters for dialogue? Is it going to, are we going to give them the room to decide what should be decided? Because we also have the issue of end Nigeria, end constitution, end this, end that. How are we going to bring them within the rubric of Nigeria without creating a sense of anarchy? How are we going to fend off those people who think that it's an opportunity for them to become stormtroopers who will say, okay, this is an opportunity for us to divide them. Let us go there and cause wahala. So it's a very interesting time, but it's a very good way to get the youth into the conversation because they feel alienated and so on.
Interesting. Let's get back to Dr. Kabiru Sufi now to perhaps round up his line of thoughts on the matter of this issue of unity and the issues the president addressed. I remember that today again there are those who are saying that they are going to have a protest to address the challenges the country is facing. Do you think that the speech of the president and the matters that he has touched on, focusing on the youth, having a confab, and also the matter of national unity and every other issue, will be able to pacify these persons perhaps in the coming days? All right, let me bring that question to the studio now. Dr. Sufi, is it available? Right. So do you think that the statement or the speech of the president is able to pacify these persons who are saying that they intend to perhaps go on the protest?
You know, in a way, Sam has agreed with me. There are deep-rooted problems, and he talked about Gen Zs. Now, it's true. I mean, I have had to deal with Gen Zs virtually all my life. In my days.
You were Gen Z once. You were of the age of the Gen Zs. You were not a Gen Z.
Oh, well, yeah. And I moved through a metamorphosis, went through the hard way, and it seems to be saying that there's also something that goes on, that some of them might be, shrink heads. I have had to deal with a Gen Z with that in there, and many of the themes that I tried to build around them and say, oh, I cannot do this, I cannot do that. But do you know that particular Gen Z was the real solution to a myriad of problems? So you get around finding ways to them, and the way to do that is to set good example. Oh, yes, there will always be some that will want to go like we had during the NSAS. As far as I'm concerned, I just don't want to be aligned. They will not just be in the minority, but by the time they begin to see this good example, which the good book says, that when your light shineth, people will see it. I have seen Gen Zs who have stormed like paratroopers, that he said, out of my office and came back years later to say, look, what you said to me the other time, I didn't allow it to waste.
So who is supposed to set the example now?
We must, therefore, at all levels, begin to look for leaders, those who set good example. I was making the point about character, capacity, compassion. Okay, those are some of the things that Nigerians are saying. We don't seem to be seeing a lot of them with our rulers. I want to ask that they become leaders. They should wear the shoes that we wear. They should understand beyond sophistry that things are tough, and so policies must be such that can be segmented in a way. I do not want to have a ruler at any level who is smiling and getting his family around him, and then I am not getting all that, get that in place. But I must therefore say something. We must clap for this president. We must clap for him because he reeled out a few statistics. I'm an economist, also apart from a communicator, talking about efficiency that we seem to be seeing in our debt management, okay, 97 to 98 and all that. The fact that he met the, the pot at a particular time, 3 billion, he's been able to grow it, he's been able to pay off through the headmaster. You know who I call the headmaster, and that is
But is all that he has said able to pacify those who are
They are good, but you see, it's like when you want to cry when it's raining. Nobody will know you are crying. Nobody will even feel the effect. And so what we really need to be doing, in my view, will be setting that agenda in such ways and manner. I already made an allusion to his statement about, giving national awards. I don't have any problem with national awards that can be taken care of. But we have situations where people are saying that we have a governance structure that is virtually a rubber stamp, allegedly. And that is not some of the things that people want to hear. Let people... And
so invariably you are saying that whatever he has said in his speech is not addressing, he cannot pacify them.
Well,
bottom line, because we need to quickly move to Dr.
Yes, it cannot pacify them because this president, and I hope he's listening to this, says he's listening. There's a difference between hearing and listening.
Absolutely.
And when you want to listen, then you have to have your feet down on the line. What can cure is good governance, and we can continue to see good governance by setting examples, which he has also alluded to. Look at the issues surrounding agri. That we should all come together and not just continue to look at Mr. President. State governors are also involved. Very much involved.
Let's go over now to Dr. Sufi. Earlier on, I asked the same question that I brought to the studio. If all of the issues the president has said in his speech, particularly the matter of holding a comfort for the youth, addressing the matter of our debt, and how he's also addressing the matter of high cost of living, would pacify those persons who are saying that they are going to begin a protest today?
Well, I don't think I don't think that will pacify really 100% the yearnings of those young men. I think maybe we are talking about two different categories of young men here, though we have not seen the modalities like you rightly put it as to what kind of people, young men are going to be in the conference. But I think talking about the conference may really excite the youth, though it may not really stop them from calling for maybe the protest or what have you. But I think the fact that there is going to be the youth conference will show them that they are being engaged, and that is one good thing. And then without overflowing maybe the issue of the youth conference, I think there are, of course, other issues that the president has raised in the speech, which we should not overlook. The issue of the Supreme Court judgment on the local government financial autonomy. We don't know how that is going to stimulate political activities, especially at the local level, and probably change things, which is something that we hope to see. And then he has talked about an economic stabilization bill that has been sent to the National Assembly. And yes, he has said that is going to reduce the tax burden, which is one of the things that is really, worrying Nigerians now, that their tax bill of private and, of course, corporate organizations is rising. So we hope there is going to be more details about this economic stabilization bill and how that is going to reduce tax burden. Of course, he has talked about the NEL fund, which I think students are happy about, and then there is going to be maybe the labor employment empowerment program LEAP, where 2.5 million jobs are targeted. Though that one also, there are no details about it, but we hope that all these things that have been said in the speech will begin to see more robust explanations as to how those lofty objectives are going to be achieved. Of course, I agree with you, you people in the studio, when you made mention of the fact that the national honors list or the discussion about the national honors shouldn't have come in the speech. But then at the end of it all, then there is also another very important point that the president has made, talking about maybe the agricultural revolution in some states, and he has mentioned some about 5-6 states and then lumped up the states in the southwest. I think that should generate competition among other states to also try to come on board with the programs, agricultural revolution programs, so as to stimulate food production and, of course, help in reducing the rising cost of food items. So all these things, I think, in the speech are some things that I find very interesting. Of course, like I said, the president started with rising costs, and towards the end, he still talked about a rising cost. Talking about the reforms that he has, the CBN approach, which he called, disciplined monetary policy management. So I think that also need to be looked into. Many people are of the opinion that the CBN approach isn't really working. But I think we need to see some more robust economic policies in that direction.
Interesting. Let's bring the conversation to the studio now. Sam, he mentioned something that the president talked about, talking about the agriculture, where he commended states like Niger, Kebbi, Kwara, Jigawa, and Southwest governors for taking the steps to adopt the agricultural production program. Yeah. And he is also encouraging other state governments that haven't done that to look into doing that. How do you think that we can scale up this? Because Nigerians are waiting for food.
Yes, yeah. I think he left out Kaduna there. Kaduna is also doing that. Now, he also mentioned something about the John Deere.
Yes.
Trucks that are going to be done within 6 months. That would be a game changer. Because what it means is that we are localizing the technology of agricultural production, which is very important. And we have seen that many acres are being worked on now as we speak, and they have started since the administration has been doing that for very early in its tenure, has been doing that, and most of it has been played down because of the high cost of food and all of that. But that is something that is coming on, and we have to tie that to also the fight against insecurity, especially in the north. You know, so many of the Kachalas have been butchered. The chief of defense staff, you know, made a list of some of them that have been killed and destroyed. As he says, it's an unfinished business. So we have to look at all of that. That farming is something that we have to do on a very large scale. And the Southwest is working together, and I call Babajide Sanwo-Olu, governor of Lagos, as the food master, since he's the one in charge of the agricultural aspect of mobilizing the forces for agriculture, which is a very good part of it. This kind of things do not really, you know, fructify early. And when you destroy things, it takes a long time. And when they took over, the governor of Anambra State, Soludo, he said what Asiwaju inherited was a dead horse standing. That is a very powerful image from a former CBN governor and economist. That's what he's saying. So these are part of the things that are going on. So people talk about the Tinubu approach to economists. They talk of Baton Rouge, or what they call the Washington Consensus.
Because of our time.
But what I want to fit this sentence is that what he is doing is that he's using laissez-faire, because he made mention of the fact that he's using free market, but within the regulatory ambit. So which means that we have laissez-faire and also a sense that we have with loan funds, agricultural help, and all of that.
Your final thought on this matter in just 60 seconds.
Laissez-faire cannot be left to the market forces.
Yes.
I also believe that President Bola Tinubu, as a hands-on, the one I think I know that work in the private sector, recognize this, you know, far deeper. And I also recognize the fact that, security is an issue. I applaud this president for acknowledging the progress that our armed forces are making. I think that is good. Let's make it integratedly in such a way that needs to be communicated better. And by the time we begin to look at that, Mr. President, I must also say that you being in the oil and gas before, the only statement I had was about the Seplat and ExxonMobil
divestment
that will eventually come to fruition. I want to believe you so well. What I didn't hear, I'm very sure you are working on it. I can trust you.
I have to leave it there because we need to go on a break.
To do with the NMPC, Dangote, refinery. We need to find the truth about what exactly is happening there. Are you being the Minister for